are you, Lamont?
I'm good. First of all, this is a little different. We usually are in the studio for Hella Single, but you invited me to your home.
Yes. Why not?
So thank you for that. Like, we having a beer.
Absolutely.
So first and foremost, like, it's Pride Month. We got to talk about the historic feature in Jet.
Okay.
In hindsight, do you understand how huge that was?
I think I can speak for both me and my ex-husband Paris when I say this, that for us it was an opportunity to share our love that we had for each other in a way that brought positive representations of same-sex marriage and the LGBTQ community, particularly for people of color.
So you guys realized the importance. You guys realized
there wasn't.
Yeah, you guys realized the magnitude of it when you were doing it.
We
right?
realized there were very few representations of people of color in same-sex marriages at that time, and we put it in an application, and lo and behold.
So you guys had to recognize the magnitude at the time, right? Because as a black gay boy growing up in 2000, well, not boy, I was a young adult. It was huge. You guys represented black gay excellence, right? And in a time where most gay people had never seen two black men married before. So thank you for that. And we jokingly referred to representation matters, but it does. Prior to that, I didn't think marriage was an option. Like, I never saw myself getting married, and I just saw almost the poster children for black gay marriage and academia, and just I don't think it's hard to explain, but now it's different, right?
For us, we were just in love, and we were happy to share that with everybody. But also, we were not the first. That's important. Not the first in the black gay community. We're not seeking to be. Not the first men. We were just the first men to be featured in Jet. But, there were other black, gay, male, publicized, nationwide, marriages that happened before us that inspired us as well.
So, Nathaniel Gayer Brown and Robert Brown, Nathaniel Gay.
Okay.
Did I get their names right?
Yes.
Okay. Robert Brown and Nathaniel Gay. They, at the time, got a lot of attention for the quote-unquote Kappa wedding, and then you did an article for Ebony, right?
I did do an article online, and it was in defense of my fraternity brother. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Can you explain that real quick? I don't think a lot of people remember the story.
This black gay couple was married, and their wedding got a lot of national attention. In part because
it went viral.
It went viral because of beautiful video, and they were a beautiful couple at a time when those stories were not shared, particularly amongst two same-gender loving black gay men. And because one was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, a lot of really cyber hate, cyberbullying started to happen. And that was, I thought, unacceptable. And also, I thought, a poor reflection on the greatest fraternity in the world.
Bias much? No, I agree. I think everything you said in the article actually hit the nail right on the head. It was just refreshing that we were actually able to have the voice of a black gay man kind of respond to all the hatred and all the attention that the video was receiving. And it sucks that they're now divorced.
I will let them speak to their divorce.
Sure. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is just this institution of marriage. Most black gay men cannot say that they have one person who's... Most black gay men can't say that there's one person they can call for marriage advice. A black gay male they can call for marriage advice. Luckily, I have you, right? And luckily, you guys have him as well. And you know how much I want to be married and how strongly I feel about the institution. And so let's have a conversation about marriage. So,
all right.
So in high school, were you out in high school?
Yes and no. I mean, I wasn't not public about my sexual desires or preferences should those topics come up. I was a active leader in my high school, Catholic high school, one of the only co-ed Catholic high schools in the state of Ohio, where I was raised. And I was student body president when I was a senior.
Of course.
And was freshman class president, sophomore class president, student body vice president my junior year. And I ran unopposed for president my senior year.
Of course.
It was a wonderful time at a wonderful high school.
Color me shocked.
I graduated from high school in 2001. So at that time, I was in high school from 97 to 2001.
Yeah.
And growing up in a black middle-class educated family in northwestern Ohio. And my parents taught all of their children to be active in the community around them, and to be real participants in the lives that they should become, should they be active through their young adulthood, to develop them into folks with good character and good values as adults.
Did you have a boyfriend in high school? Or a serious crush, right?
This is
97.
So actually, in high school, for 2 years, I had a girlfriend.
No.
Yeah, for 2 years in high school, I had a girlfriend.
Did y'all cross the line?
And
did y'all do?
We crossed the line.
You're not a Gold Star gay?
I'm not. No. I'm not.
Interview over. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm sorry.
I'm playing.
But she was beautiful. And,
I am disappointed though. I'm disappointed.
I was very active in my community and track and field and public speaking and other things, and so I was very busy. And through my travels and my busyness, I decided that this is the beginning of the time in your life where you have to begin to make plans for the future that are long lasting. And so I thought that it was best to actually be honest with everyone, not just select communities, about my sexual preference. But that's a difficult question for me, because in many ways I was always out, because there was never really a question for those who knew me.
Right.
But I still get, I was hit on the other day by a woman here in Richmond, and she happened to be hot anyway. But I find it hilarious that I get mistaken for a straight guy still.
How do you break the news?
Hysterical to me. I don't understand.
How do you break the news? You say, "I'm sorry, you're barking up the wrong tree, lady."
No. That just actually wasn't the reason why we broke up. There were other reasons. There's always other reasons.
No, the lady from the bar that hit on you.
Oh, lady from the bar. Yeah. No, I just said thank you. And complimented her as well.
You curved her. Poor lady. Thought she was striking this weekend. Poor lady.
Hey, I feel like I didn't curb her. I feel like I gave her hope by, just politely thanking her, saying how I felt that she was beautiful as well, and that I hope she had a good day. And so she might have hope that we might see each other again. So I don't necessarily view that as curbing.
It's a curve. It's a very light, polite curve, but a curve nonetheless.
Okay.
So that's interesting to me. I made these assumptions about you. I was like, of course he was the student body president. Of course he excelled academically in high school. So let's fast forward to the time when your first serious relationship. What was that, college?
Yeah, I would say my first serious relationship was in college. When I was a freshman, I met a very wonderful guy.
Now look at his face. He is grinning from ear to ear. Who is this guy? What's his name?
He happens to be one of my best friends to this day. And he and I hit it off, and we were really together for much of our undergraduate 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And so, That was a lot of fun. I think it was both of us. I think it was our first serious relationship, or at least relationship that we might have taken seriously with hopes and aspirations for something more and long term. His name is Alex.
Alex?
And,
is Alex single right now?
he is.
And you're single right now?
I am.
So how long did it take you guys to be able to be friends after the end of the relationship? Was it an immediate thing?
Oh, no, we were friends first. In fact, when I met him, he also has a twin brother who I love equally, and a host of other friends that have become really just a best friend clique.
Yeah.
And now 18 years later, we just got together, many of us, not all of us, but many of us a couple weeks ago, for my birthday in New York and for Alex and Nick's birthday as well.
Oh, you were in New York for your birthday?
I was.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You kept that very on the low on social media. I thought you were here.
Oh, no, I was in New York. Yes.
Living your best life.
Yes.
How was your birthday?
Wonderful. I had a wonderful time with my close friends and close family.
How dare you cough on this show? How dare
I'm so
you?
sorry.
How dare you?
I stayed.
I thought I just dropped beer all on your floor.
Sorry,
You're good.
and I stayed with Alex actually, and
He lives in the city.
He lives in the city.
I'm obsessed with Alex already. Go ahead, continue your story.
And his dad was in town, which is great. Love his dad, and yeah, so it was a lot of fun. My sister lives nearby in Connecticut. She came down for my actual birthday dinner, and it was just me, Alex, and my sister, and it was wonderful. I didn't want anyone else there, although I have hundreds of friends in New York.
You had hundreds of friends.
I
think after they hear this and realize they went about to your birthday dinner.
I'm not someone who, first of all, wants to add expenses onto people just because it's my birthday. I think that's rather audacious. And secondly, I really just wanted an intimate moment. I think all my friends can respect that. All of us understand privacy.
Sure. I wouldn't be so understanding. I'm just letting you know that. So, at what point did you realize that that marriage was a possibility for you? You got married back in 2011 or 12?
2012. I never thought that it wasn't a possibility, to be honest. Even with the laws growing up, which I was aware of, I was not. I never not believed it was possible. One, I believe with God all things are possible. So that kind of just carries me day to day. Mm-hmm. And as it relates to that issue, it was not something that I perceived to be impossible. I was frustrated, particularly during high school and college, but really more so in college, with my particular religious denomination, which I am a member and active in today, that they are bishops, which govern the rules of the denomination, would not allow the ministers to marry same-sex couples.
2012 was an interesting year, right? It was It was the year that Obama came out in support of same-sex marriage.
It was.
And at the time, for most people who aren't familiar, this is prior to marriage equality. In 2012, a lot of gay men were getting married in Washington, D.C. So their marriage was recognized legally in D.C., but not in their home states.
Right.
And you got married in D.C., correct?
No, I got married in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Oh, I thought you got married in D.C.
I got married in Worcester, Massachusetts. You know, Massachusetts actually shares my birthday, which makes it kind of cool. Massachusetts, on May 17th of 2004, was the first state to have had a judicial decision to have allowed same-sex marriage legally. And so I happened to live in Massachusetts at the time.
Oh, wow.
And my then husband happened to live in Massachusetts at the time. We began cohabitating, and we got married soon after.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we talked about this like last year when the article There was something about like a long commute in the article. Did I make that up?
No. What we were talking about what I guess old folks would say the courting period.
Okay, gotcha.
Where we were kind of dating.
Well, y'all were talking, or you guys actually committed.
Yeah, there was a period. Well, this is when we were dating when we first we met in 2008. And
where'd you guys meet at?
We initially met actually on Adam for Adam. And we met the same day.
We're all love happens.
Yes,
I met my ex on
clearly
A
the
for
place.
A.
Well, hey, so,
and we were together for 4 years. So Adam for Adam, no, I'm sorry. I will not endorse. I will not endorse that website. But yeah, so samesies. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, but we met the same day, and I think for up until fairly recently, last year and a half or 2 years or so, we talked pretty much every day.
Did you feel like it was love at first sight? Did you know? Because I always subscribe to this idea that you know when you know, like that connection. That
I knew that I was in love with him. Yes.
This is the first day?
No, I knew the first day that this, and we've talked about this actually before. I knew the first day that this was an individual who I would not be able to get rid of. And that was a kind of a playful way in which we both acknowledged that we both kind of realized the same thing.
Cute. Very cute. So this all sounds great so far. What do you attribute to the demise of your marriage?
Obviously, in any, I think, failed relationship, to the extent that you label the failure of a relationship because a certain status within it changes. I've always said then, and I continue to say now, I and myself and Paris got a divorce. That part of our relationship ended, but our relationship did not end. And neither of us wanted that. But that part of our relationship did. And so I don't think it was a failure of a relationship. The relationship continues.
Yeah.
I think it's was a failure of certain different interpretations of what we wanted in a particular commitment at that particular time in our lives.
First of all, I'm still heartbroken. I think that when any marriage ends, especially when you know what all it tells, it's opening up to a person, like sharing your life. So that's unfortunate. What's the best gem you can give to somebody like myself who sees himself getting married? And I would hope to only get married once. What's the best advice you can give to a hella single brother like myself?
Wow.
You're single too. I keep forgetting that you're a part of the Welcome to the Club.
Thank you.
Welcome to the club. We'll get to that later though. What's the best marriage advice you can give to me? So my wedding day, imagine it's my wedding day. I'm about to walk down the aisle or stand at the front. Who knows? We'll see. And I'm like, this is about to happen. What's the best advice you think you could offer me in that moment?
Every day when you wake up, you have a choice to make. And just like with any day, every decision, we make several decisions in every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day you have to choose to be everything you can to that person, presumably who's lying next to you. And if there's a day that comes and you can't do that, then you need to do a serious investigation about why that has changed for you.
That's a word. I'm just curious, like, how you felt at the end of it. How soon after the divorce was finalized did you get out there and start dating again?
So marriage is work. And I think it's a beautiful kind of work. Like, I love my job. I think it's a labor of love, literally. I really think that's what marriage is, but it is work. And so when the marriage was over, I kind of took an extended vacation, kind of what you would do from work in general. That has been at times tiring and stressful, but also joyful and good for you. And so I took an extended break. I began to do some some travel internationally by myself, which I have never done before and I wanted to do.
How long?
I tried. I went to a few places over the course of the first 6 months of
Yeah, like your eat, pray, love trip.
my post-divorce period.
That's what I call those. Like when you out of a serious relationship or bad breakup, when you travel internationally, it's your eat, pray, love trip.
Oh, well, yes. Well, that lasted about 6 months for me off and on.
Okay.
At least the period in my life where I was in that kind of phase.
And after the 6 month period, you were able to go on. When was your first date after the divorce? Was it was after the 6 months?
What do you mean by date? I never quite understand what dating means, so I'm sorry, but do we mean meeting someone
Dr.
for
Perry doesn't know what dating
lunch
means.
or dinner and getting to know each other in conversation and text messages or going other places that you might like together?
Isn't that what dating is?
Or are we talking about someone who you might see on a more regular basis, but for more intimate purposes? What is dating exactly?
So the second one you described to me sounds like friends with benefits.
Okay.
The first one to me sounds like what most people would consider dating. That's not how I date these days.
So the difference essentially then,
It's
I really
sex.
have to understand this. The difference then is no, it's not really this activity necessarily. The difference is the location. So
I think it's the root of it, right?
You go
If your
to
intentions-
a bowling alley or or Fridays or something that makes it somehow a different experience than people who chose to spend that 2 hours doing something else.
Let me just let the record reflect that your pivot game is strong. Very strong. No, this is you. I'm watching a master at work.
No, but seriously, I
I'm watching a
really
master
do
at work.
have, and everyone who knows me knows this. Really don't quite understand what dating is. I never really had. I'm bad at it. And I think it's because.
When was your first boyfriend after you got divorced? Was that year, 2 years?
My first boyfriend after I got divorced was when that relationship was solidified as boyfriends. About about 10 months later.
Okay. What was that? What was that like? Was it easy? Was it easy for you to take another relationship seriously?
No. It was a difficult transition to make a commitment.
Poor guy. The cards were stacked against him, especially fresh out of a marriage. I would assume. You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
No, I will. He's a very lovable guy, and I actually love him. I'm not in a position to continue that going forward, and that's
what you said.
Where we are.
You said what you said. So in my mind, I would assume that any guy who meets you and finds out that you were previously married, immediately starts planning your wedding. He's like, because in there, I would assume that they would assume that since you've already done it, that it's something that you would do again. And I think that's always the test, because most guys fear commitment. Most situations, having a guy be your boyfriend is a big deal, but a partner, a husband. So I think that do you come across a lot of guys who immediately start hearing wedding bells after you disclose that you were previously married?
I'm not so sure it's I'll use an academic term, a correlation between those two things. I do think that when people learn, or in many cases, most people have already known this.
They've
when
Googled
they
you.
meet me.
They've Googled you.
But that is the case, then I think they do then consider that long-term potential if they were interested as well.
Right.
To be clear, I have nothing to do with that decision for themselves. But that's possible because obviously you've seen me be in a long-term relationship before.
Right.
So obviously you understand that that's something that I can do and in fact enjoy and want to happen again.
You want to get married again?
Absolutely.
Really? I think I'm one and done.
Oh no!
I feel like a one and done
Absolutely,
kinda
I will
guy.
get married again, and
Let
I
me
will
ask you this.
have children and live happily ever after.
No, of course you will. Of course you will. Let me ask you this. When you said those vows and you promised everything, I don't know what your vows were, when you made all those promises, my issue, and this is probably just the Lamont thing, it would be difficult for me to repeat those same vows the second time after realizing I didn't.
Well, the vows would not be the same. See, vows are what you make them, or at least
I thought it was like
presumably they
to
should
have
be.
it to hold for richer, for poor.
No, presumably your vow is what you choose to vow. Are you going to just read a script that was prepared for someone else?
You mean like most Americans do? Absolutely.
Your relationship with that person should be a vow that is personal. What you're doing at the moment is personal. Our vows were personal.
So you're going to make me do personal vows.
I won't have a problem when I make vows in another instance in my future, hopefully near. But
of course. Very near.
Because the vows for that individual was about that individual.
Right. That's fair.
And my next set of vows will be for that next individual.
I didn't take into account that they were customized. I just was reciting the script in my head. I'm like, I've said this before, and I didn't mean it then. So it's going to be difficult for me to say it and in good faith believe what I said. So you are single right now, and, you know, I'm sure everybody, please, this is a no coughing show, okay? Please.
I'm really sorry about that.
Please.
I've had a very active voice day before this.
You booked and busy. You were on NBC 12.
I was on the news, yeah, because it's a Virginia primary day, the day that we're taping this, and
the official political analyst.
And yes, I hope everyone's registered to vote. If not, shame on you.
Shame.
And secondly, go do it. Thanks.
So there's people watching right now saying, "How the hell is he single?" What do you say to those people?
Well, I'm single because I chose to be. To be honest, I mean that's the short answer. I am the individual who I'm still wrestling with this, who has broken off my last 2 serious relationships. Before that, don't think I had a reputation of doing that. Others might disagree, but I don't think so. And I'm kind of adjusting to what that has meant for me. I don't see myself as someone who ends relationships. I don't like that role. But I mean,
if it's not working, it's not working. I think people would appreciate the fact that you wouldn't just stay in it for the optics, right?
Well, I think some would say that I perhaps took longer than I should in letting them know a particular feeling I had.
That's fair.
But I never want to. I never want to hurt. I never want to hurt someone that I obviously love, and so. Sometimes the difficulty for me to even come around to having the conversation is because I know what I'm going to say is going to deeply be hurtful. And that's not a situation I ever really want to be in. But sometimes in life I found myself in that situation.
So how do you meet your guys? Are you on any dating sites?
I'm on various dating sites. I
What's
also
that like?
Meet people locally, and I prefer, elsewhere, I prefer the opportunity to meet people wherever your feet may go. The world's a big place. 7 billion people in this world.
Has it been problematic, like the process of getting to know a guy? But what are some of your dating issues, like the shit that you need to overcome for your next situation, or are you perfect? The latter, of course, right? We can't.
Obviously, I'm not perfect. But there are challenges with dating, and then there are issues. So one challenge is I'm HIV positive, and I have been since 2003. And so much of my adult life, relationships have been a challenge from that angle. In terms of issues, I'm stubborn. I talk a lot. I'm busy.
All the basics.
I don't like mornings. I have fairly you know, a black and white personality, and I love God and I love my family, and I don't make compromises on those.
So it just most people, excuse me, most people think that, I think that for the most part, people would look at your accolades and everything you've accomplished, and well, most guys, I would assume, and feel like you're unattainable. Have you ever given any thought to that? That sounds arrogant to say, but most guys would say, oh, he's a PhD, he's a professor, he's accomplished, he's incredibly smart, he's gorgeous. Like, there's no way I have a chance with him. Is that like a thing that you've encountered at all? Or am I just making this up? This is all based on perception, because something like, there's no way that you're not like.
I have been told before by people who eventually did end up talking to me that they were perhaps nervous before they chose to do so, because they didn't think, given what they thought of me in whatever particular way, of who I was to them in their mind at that moment, thought that I'd be interested in them. And so I have had that happen a lot.
Yeah.
And my attitude is this: I'm Ravi, and on my epitaph, if I have one, or whatever is inscribed in whatever place my ashes will be, it's just gonna have my name. It's not gonna have anything else before or after it. Because at the end of the day, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
But most people don't look at it that way. I think that was a very poetic way of putting that. But most people can't look past that, right? Because everyone's looking for the perfect.
But I would encourage everyone to do so. I mean,
You
for example, I did a TED Talk everyone could look at on how to be a kid again. And I do think that as adults, we have to take ownership of our own lives and our own life choices.
Yeah.
And for me, that includes being honest about when you're single and why you are single, when perhaps what you want to do and accomplish, why being single, but also be honest about one's own flaws,
Yeah.
one's issues. And it begins with being really confident that if you are who you are and believe yourself to be in your own heart with other people, that they will see that. And everything else that you have done or have not done, good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't really matter. To me, I'm more interested in character than I am in accolades. I believe in achievement because I believe in hard work. I love a hustler. I'm not sorry at all, actually. I like a man who's a hustler. And for me, that means that they are someone who has real joy and craft in the various kinds of things that they choose to do for themselves, that hopefully gives them some form of real contentment in life, and that they are good at it, and they might be doing it a lot, or it might be very busy, but they are people who make it happen.
Yeah.
They get it done.
That's your type then, right? It's your type. You like ambitious, goal-oriented, hardworking guys? What about physically? You have a physical type?
I don't think I have a physical type.
You have a physical type.
I don't think I have preferences.
Are you willing to share those preferences?
I have preferences.
How important are looks to you? Are you like a sapiosexual, or do looks play a huge factor?
Looks play a leading factor. Because honestly, looks have to do, at least for me, in part with sexual arousal.
Sure.
And obviously, in a relationship with someone, presumably you're going to be engaging in those kinds of activities. And if I'm not,
let's not make assumptions,
attracted to you,
no, I'm kidding.
then what's the likelihood of that activity being successful?
Well, you never know. You never know. That's funny. I always imagine you had like a very rigid type.
No, not at all. I do believe in attraction, and for everyone, attraction is different.
Yeah.
I believe, personally, I think everyone is beautiful. Then I think some people
That's nice to say.
are beautiful. I mean, so, and, but in general, everyone, I think, has to be proud of who they are. I think if more of us were willing to be open and honest, I think the world really will be better.
Absolutely, but it's so easier said than done. Like, even doing this show, there's a lot of things I'm learning about myself and a lot of things I feel like I'm overcoming from doing this, but it's still difficult. At what point in your life did you make a commitment to transparency and being honest and living out loud? Or was that always your ideology?
When it comes to my sexuality, I did make it clear as a particular rite of passage, I would say, after I completed my PhD, that I would ensure that I would go on the job market as someone who was openly gay, because I wanted to ensure that I would work in an environment that would accept me for who I was. If you go to a job that has psychological stress as a part of you just walking in the door, that's obviously not a good job for you. I have been blessed to work at wonderful places, including where I work now. And I think that's in part because I have been out and open with who I am, and good, bad, and different. And I think that when I have been on the job market in the past, I think that absolutely will mean that for some people, they're not interested in someone who is very active in community affairs. They're not interested, perhaps, in someone who is openly gay, or what have you. And so,
although that shouldn't play a role in anybody getting the job,
right? But there are places that are, and so for me, that was one important rite of passage. But I would also say that have had an evolving stance on how I have been out in terms of kind of, I would say, some like public media circumstances. So in part because, I'll give you a brief example. I think this will make the point clear. So I did a segment for a local news station here in Richmond a few months ago. And it happened to coincide on election day where the first trans woman to be elected in the Commonwealth of Virginia to the House of Delegates was elected. And I happened to mention that this is a really prideful moment for those of us, like myself, in the LGBTQ community, and people thought that was a bombshell. For me, it wasn't. It was just me telling a relevant part of myself that has been that who I have.
This is
been
Richmond.
Forever.
This is Richmond.
But it is. But for them, I realized after that was over that it was of note.
Remotes were on the floor. Channels were changed. The volumes were increased.
Come on, remember, I lived in Starkville, Mississippi. I have lived in very rural communities, very conservative places, and I insist on being who I am. And I've even done so to the extent where I've been advocating for LGBTQ inclusion and non-discrimination policies at the local level and what have you, very publicly with all kinds of participations. And that is something that I'm proud of, but it's something that I always give credit to my parents. They raised children to remember that they have an obligation to give back to the community.
How's your dad doing?
Dad's great. Dad is actually thinking about drafting a project on the origins of the ethnic studies movement that led to the development of departments and programs and centers and institutes around the country in U.S. higher education in the 60s and 70s and thereafter. And so I'm excited for him to be 85 years old and finding joy and
still doing the
excitement in life every day is a beautiful thing to watch. He's a man who has not only been an excellent father, it is Pride Month, and it's also Father's Day coming up.
Right.
He's, he always said, and my mom would say the same thing, that being a parent is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And as I think about becoming a parent myself, what I'm proud of right now is that I'm able to say, and I love the fact that I can say, and it's adoring to me to be able to say that my parents did a wonderful job.
They did okay.
A wonderful job.
They did okay.
No, it's not a reflection on the activities or flaws of their children. It's a reflection on the fact that they at least raised adults who think, and who give back to their communities, and who generally love everybody. That's very hard to accomplish in today's day and world.
That's a word.
I'm an educator. I can tell you that's hard to accomplish.
That's a word. So let's end with this. In honor of Father's Day, I'm doing a Father's Day episode next week.
Oh, cool.
I'm having my stepdad on and my
wonderful.
biological father on. Me and my
Yes.
father have never had the gay conversation.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's going to be a very
Is
interesting
he aware that this
episode.
conversation is going to be that?
He will be. He will be.
Oh, so he's not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he hasn't agreed to be on the show, but he's going to be on the show.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to have the conversation.
All right.
How was your dad and you's coming out conversation like? What was that like?
In some ways, it was never really a conversation or a story. We, it's actually, it has to be a story. My family, led by my mom, always did family meetings around Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
Every year. And we would get together, all of us, and we would talk about what kind of went wrong for the last year and what kind of went well. And what our goals, our aspirations are for the future. We would have in-laws there, everybody, nieces, nephews, anyone who was in town for the holidays would do. My mother did that. I miss those activities. My mom has Alzheimer's, and all I can say is that sucks.
So reflection was a huge part of your family
It was
dynamic.
a huge part. Yeah, it was a huge part of our family dynamic. And one of those years, the year in which I was diagnosed, actually, is the year in which I think for some members of my family, it was perhaps for them the first time that my same-sex sexuality was spoken. But it wasn't the first time that either one of them was aware of it.
Right. Got you. Okay. Cool. Well, this is a perfect place to end. I want to thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much.
Thank you,
doing
Lamont. I
this.
love this show, and I think that it's beautiful and brilliant that when you have an idea and a dream, that you don't let it sit in your head, that you write it down, that you frame it in your head, and you actually make it happen. And if anything, these mics are proof that you made it happen.
Let them know. Thank you so much, Ravi. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely.
This is fun.
It's
So,
fun.
how can everybody get in contact with you? They want to
On
follow
Twitter,
your works?
Ravi Perry. You can find me there, and I'm happy to continue the conversation.
This was Hella Sagal. Thank you guys so much for listening. Peace.
Cool.